Hey everybody, welcome back to the Her Sacred Place channel. In the last two videos, we talked about yeast infections and bacterial vaginosis, which is two not STDs or STI infections. They're just common vaginal infections that us women may get when our vaginal pH is thrown off. Now we're going to talk about three infections of the vagina that are STD or STI related, and that means sexually transmitted diseases or sexually transmitted infections. So if you have purchased it already, and the link is in the download, to link to download the workbook is in the description section. Make sure you bring out your handy dandy workbook and follow along with me as we talk about trichomoniasis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. Again, these are sexually transmitted diseases, so these three differ significantly from BV or yeast infections. Before I get started, go ahead, if you haven't already, take a second to pause this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the like button. Just hit the subscribe just with the little red, and then hit the like button also to give me a thumbs up so that I'll know that you like this video. Okay? So let's dive right in. First, we're going to talk about trichomoniasis or Trichomonas Vaginalis. You may hear it called Trichomonas. You may hear it called Trichomoniasis, or most commonly, people just refer to it as trich. But Trichomoniasis is an STI. It's categorized as a sexually transmitted infection, and it's caused by a parasite. Up to half of the people with trich don't have any symptoms, so they don't know that they do have it. But if left untreated for extended periods of time, untreated trich can lead to infertility. So it's always good to just get checked every so often, even if you're not feeling anything going on down there or just feeling off balance or anything. It's good to get check for things, because sometimes we are asymptomatic as women and we don't know that we actually have something going on down there until we get checked for these things. But a couple symptoms of trichomoniasis or trich include yellow, gray, or green foul smelling and possibly frothy discharge. But remember, we just talked about bacterial vaginosis and we said that it can be foul smelling or grayish. That's why it's always important to get checked out, because a lot of things when it comes to our vaginas can cross over, and we may think we have one thing, but we really have another. So again, it can be grayish, yellow, or greenish, which when we talked about in our vaginal discharge colors video, and if you haven't watched that already, anytime you're seeing any type of deep color, yellow, greenish, foul smelling, or anything coming out of your vagina, you should definitely go see a doctor, because that's an indication that something is going on. So again, the symptoms include yellow, gray, or green foul smelling and possible frothy vaginal discharge, soreness and itching around the vulva, and pain during sex. Also, you can have pain during urination. Typically, it's like that burning sensation. You may feel like when you go to urinate, it may burn a lot. And that's a typical symptom of any type of STD or STI. So if you feel any type of burning during urination, you should definitely make an appointment with your doctor as soon as possible. Typically, treatment includes a round of antibiotics, usually Flagyl or Tendamax. But trichomoniasis, trichomonas, you may hear me say that interchangeably, but this has to be diagnosed by a doctor. So if you're having any of those type of symptoms or anything like that going on, make sure to go ahead and schedule to getting to a doctor as soon as possible, because we don't want to have fertility problems down the road because we had this lingering infection going on that we may or may not know about. The second STD or STI I want to talk to you about, which everybody knows, is Chlamydia Vaginitis. A lot of people already know about chlamydia. Chlamydia is one of those things where you may hear people refer to it as the clap or things like that, but it's not uncommon to hear people talk about chlamydia. So chlamydia is an STD that can cause a lot of inflammation of the vagina. Some women may have discharge with chlamydia and some women don't. So they just may have a dry chlamydia infection, and there's some people who have an excess amount of discharge. But sometimes the infection can spread beyond the vagina and in the cervix, and some women may start to experience bleeding in between periods, or more commonly bleeding during sex or after sex. They may notice that after they have sex and go to wipe, which is what I always encourage everyone to do. Make sure you cleanse yourself and urinate after sex. But women realize they may be spotting a little, or they see a little bit of blood. So anytime you're having any type of blood flow outside of your natural monthly period, that is an indication. But one of the telltale signs of chlamydia is experiencing bleeding between periods or right after sex has sex has ended. Another thing, most women with chlamydia do not have any symptoms, just like it is with trichomoniasis. You can have chlamydia and be asymptomatic. So even when a woman does have the symptoms, they're very mild and can be mistaken for just a common vaginal infection like a yeast infection, especially if she doesn't have any excess discharge. She may think it's just a dry yeast infection or a bladder infection or something like that, and it's actually chlamydia. So it's important, like I was just saying, when it comes to trichomoniasis, it is important that whenever we start to notice anything going on with our vaginal region or anything feeling off, it's just not feeling how we're used to, or we experience that pain during sex, or that pain, that bleeding during sex or anything. Because a lot of the times when we have the symptoms, we know something is going on. However, if you don't have the symptoms, you think nothing is going on. So it's always important, like I said, to just go in periodically, even if you're just going once a year or once every 6 months. If you're sexually active, just go in and say, I just want a complete STD test just to make sure I'm STD free. Because you never know what's going on if you're one of those women who doesn't have symptoms when from these infections, and then you're unknowingly passing them on to other people because you just don't know. But if you do experience the symptoms of chlamydia, there's usually an abnormal amount of discharge. So typically it's going to have a malodor or a foul smell, and you're going to see an excess amount of slimy discharge, a burning sensation while urinating. Remember, we already talked about that. Anytime you feel yourself burning while you urinate or you're peeing, it's most likely some type of STD. And again, that vaginal bleeding in between periods. You may notice that you're starting to bleed a little bit when your period is off or after sex or something like that. That's usually an indication of chlamydia. Now, like I said, here, I always recommend all young girls or women who are sexually active to get tested for STDs, specifically outside of your annual pap smear to test for cancer or anything like that, to get tested for STDs also, because I can't stress this enough. I know I've already talked about this at least 3 different times in this video already, but I have to circle back around to it because I can't stress enough how important it is to get tested for these sexually transmitted diseases or sexually transmitted infections, even if you feel like everything is fine down there. I always urge my clients who come into Her Sacred Place, if you're just sexually active, you don't kind of know what's going on if you're asymptomatic. So women, please, it doesn't hurt to know. So just make sure you get tested every so often to make sure that you don't have anything going on that you may not know about, because it could lead to infertility, and then you may end up dealing with fertility problems later on down the line from something that may have happened a few months or a few years ago, I should say, and it's just been lingering on all these times. Okay, so that is what I have to tell you about chlamydia. Again, we already talked about trichomoniasis and chlamydia and the importance of getting tested even if you don't have anything going on down there. But I just want to take a second to go ahead and remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the Her Sacred Place channel, and also hit the like button. Give me a thumbs up and let me know if you are enjoying this content or not. And if you have any questions about anything, make sure to drop it down in the comments below, and I'll check the comments and see how you feel about this video or what's going on. But we'll go ahead and move into the third and last STI that we're going to talk about. And you may have already guessed it. You can't talk about chlamydia without talking about this one. So this one is gonorrhea. Everyone, usually chlamydia and gonorrhea go hand in hand. So if you go and you test positive for one or the other, your OB or your doctor may just go ahead and treat you for both of them. But gonorrhea, you may have heard it just called rhea, or some people will call it gangrene or something like that, because it's associated with a lot of green discharge coming out the vagina and a very off-putting odor. But gonorrhea is a highly, highly contagious bacteria STD. So that often does not cause any symptoms, again, but it can cause, those who suffer from symptoms can have an abnormal vaginal discharge or unhealthy vaginal discharge, pain during urination, and pain during sex. So again, anytime you have any pain or burning sensation during urination, that's typically, not always, typically a sign of some type of vaginal problem, and usually a STD. So anytime you're having to feel some of that going on, make sure you schedule an appointment immediately. And also, gonorrhea is associated with pain during sex. So women who usually have gonorrhea often have chlamydia too, like I was just telling you. So a woman who tests positive for one of the infections will often be treated for both of them. But I just wanted to briefly talk to you ladies about trichomoniasis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia, because those are the three most common STIs or STDs here are out right now in this year, I should say, or in the last couple years. But I like to come on here and talk about that, because one of the main things, again, circling around again, is that all three of these STIs can go without symptoms, or STDs can go without symptoms. So you can be walking around with it possibly right now and not even knowing, unknowingly spreading these to others. So again, make sure you get tested at least once a year. But if you want to be more proactive, or you feel like, you know, you just want to know because you are being a little bit promiscuous or however you feel, and you want to get tested every 6 months, that's fine. Every 3 months, whatever you feel is best for you. But I'm just here to encourage you to get tested every so often, whether you feel like you have any vaginal problems or not, because prevention is much better than treating or curing. If we can prevent these things from happening by using condoms, and we catch them early on, we'll have a better handle on them. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure, if you did, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And I will see you in the next video, where we're going to talk about some different types of vaginitis that aren't associated with being an STD or the most common, such as BV and yeast infection. We're just going to talk about other types of vaginitis where you can get your pH can be thrown off for other different reasons. So I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.